Cold rain hammered against the windows of the federal courthouse. The morning Captain Nora Cole returned home in uniform. Not home to family, not home to comfort, home to judgment. The marble lobby buzzed with reporters, lawyers, and federal agents moving through security checkpoints. Conversations overlapped in sharp whispers until the elevator doors opened. Then silence spread across the room like a wave. Nora stepped out wearing full military dress blues. Her medals reflected the overhead lights. Every step was calm, measured, exact. People moved aside instinctively. Some recognized the rank. Others recognized the name. Cole. The same name currently dominating every national headline. At the far end of the hallway stood her family. Her mother, Evelyn, clutched a designer handbag tightly against her chest while pretending not to notice the reporters nearby. Her father, Richard, paced impatiently beside their expensive attorney. And in the center stood Ethan Cole, her older brother, golden child, millionaire founder, media favorite, now facing federal charges tied to cyber espionage, illegal defense exports, and classified intelligence leaks. The moment Ethan saw Nora approaching, a crooked smile appeared on his face. "Well," he laughed lightly, "look who finally came to support the family." Richard shook his head with quiet disappointment. "You could have worn normal clothes at least," he muttered. "This isn't a military parade." Nora said nothing. She had spent her entire life saying nothing. At age 10, she stayed silent when Ethan blamed her for breaking their grandfather's watch. At 14, she stayed silent when her parents sold her academic medals to help fund Ethan's startup competition. At 18, she stayed silent when nobody attended her military graduation because Ethan had a business awards ceremony the same night. Silence became survival, and survival became discipline. But discipline, when pushed too far, eventually hardened into something dangerous. The courtroom doors opened. Everyone entered. Judge Samuel Whitaker adjusted his glasses while reviewing the federal docket. "United States versus Ethan Cole," he announced firmly. Ethan leaned back confidently beside his legal team. Expensive suit, perfect hair, relaxed smile. He looked untouchable. His attorney rose smoothly. "Your Honor, before proceedings continue, we move for immediate dismissal based on investigative misconduct and unlawful acquisition of evidence." Judge Whitaker frowned slightly. "Explain." The attorney nodded toward Nora. "The lead investigator on this case has a direct personal relationship with the defendant. Captain Nora Cole conducted this investigation while motivated by family resentment and personal bias." Whispers spread instantly through the courtroom. Cameras shifted toward Nora. Ethan smiled faintly. That was the plan, destroy her credibility before she could speak. The attorney continued confidently. "We believe Captain Cole manipulated evidence under the authority of a classified military operation." Judge Whitaker slowly looked up, then directly at Nora. The old judge's expression changed instantly. The color drained from his face. "Captain? Nora Cole?" he asked quietly. Nora stood. "Yes, Your Honor." The courtroom waited. Judge Whitaker removed his glasses carefully. "Operation Black Meridian?" Every federal agent in the room turned toward Nora immediately. Even Ethan's attorney stopped breathing for a moment. Nora answered calmly, "Yes, sir." The judge leaned back slowly in the stunned silence. "My God," he whispered. "You're the architect of Black Meridian?" Now the courtroom truly understood. Black Meridian wasn't an ordinary investigation. It was one of the most classified cyber defense operations in recent military history, a program credited with preventing foreign attacks against U.S. satellite infrastructure. Her identity had never been public. Until now. Ethan's confidence flickered for the first time. His attorney recovered quickly. "Regardless of military credentials, Your Honor, personal bias still compromises." "No," Judge Whitaker interrupted sharply. "Captain Cole's work is taught inside federal intelligence programs." "Be careful where you step, Counselor." The room fell silent again. Nora remained standing, expression unreadable. Inside, however, memories were rising like ghosts. 2 months earlier, she had been sitting deep underground inside a secure military intelligence facility, reviewing encrypted transfer logs connected to Black Meridian. At first, the data looked routine. Offshore accounts, anonymous servers, layered encryption. Then she found a name hidden inside one financial authorization key. Ethan Cole. She checked again and again, praying she was wrong. But the evidence only became worse. Her brother had been secretly routing restricted drone guidance systems through shell corporations connected to hostile buyers overseas. Not just fraud, treason-level exposure. Nora remembered staring at the screen for nearly 10 minutes, unable to breathe properly. Then Colonel Marcus Vance entered the room. "You know him?" he asked quietly. Nora nodded once. "My brother." The colonel remained silent for several seconds. Then came the hardest order of her life. "Continue the investigation." Back in the courtroom, Ethan finally stood. "This is insane," he snapped suddenly. "You're seriously trusting her over me?" Nora turned slowly toward him for the first time, and the room froze again, because her eyes held absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no hesitation, only certainty. The prosecutor approached the evidence monitor. "Permission to display Exhibit 47. The judge nodded. Bank transfers appeared across the courtroom screens. Encrypted communications, offshore routing chains, satellite export authorizations, each one tied directly to Ethan Cole. Nora walked calmly toward the witness stand. The oath barely registered in her mind anymore. Her entire life had prepared her for this moment. The prosecutor began carefully. "Captain Cole, can you explain how the investigation identified the defendant?" Nora opened a black classified binder. Then she spoke with terrifying precision. Every sentence landed like steel. She explained how Ethan bypassed export control systems using foreign shell corporations, how he encrypted military component shipments under false civilian manifests, how classified drone stabilization ships disappeared through Dubai shipping routes before surfacing in hostile regions. The courtroom listened in complete silence. Even the reporters stopped typing. When Ethan's attorney attempted interruption, Nora calmly produced timestamps, server logs, and signed digital authorizations connected directly to Ethan's biometric credentials. Every excuse collapsed instantly. Ethan's smile disappeared completely. Richard Cole looked physically ill. Evelyn covered her mouth while tears filled her eyes. For the first time in their lives, they were seeing Nora clearly, not as the quiet daughter, not as the forgotten child, not as the girl in the background, but as someone powerful enough to destroy everything with the truth alone. Finally, the prosecutor asked the final question. "Captain Cole, in your professional opinion, did the defendant knowingly compromise national defense systems?" Nora looked directly at Ethan. The entire courtroom held its breath. "Yes," she answered. One word. Cold. Final. Absolute. Ethan slammed his fists against the defense table. "She's lying," he shouted. "She always hated me." Judge Whitaker's gavel exploded across the room. "Enough!" Federal marshals moved closer instantly. The judge stared down at Ethan with open disgust. "Bail is denied. The defendant will remain in federal custody pending trial." The metallic sound of handcuffs echoed sharply through the courtroom. Ethan looked toward his parents desperately as marshals pulled him away. But neither moved, neither spoke, because somewhere deep inside they finally understood the terrible truth. The daughter they ignored had become the strongest person in the room. Outside the courthouse, storm clouds rolled across the city skyline. Reporters screamed questions from behind barricades. Camera flashes exploded nonstop. Nora descended the courthouse steps alone. Colonel Vance waited beside a black government vehicle. "You did your duty," he said quietly. Nora nodded once. Behind her, through the courthouse glass doors, she could see her parents standing motionless in the lobby. Lost, small, too late. Weeks later, Ethan Cole accepted a federal plea deal. 18 years in prison, no media statement, no public apology, only silence. One night, long after the headlines faded, Nora received a message from her father. 3 words. "You were right." She stared at the screen for a long moment, then deleted the message without replying. Some wounds healed, others simply learned how to stand at attention.